Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I am Kenneth Shark Kinney, your host and Chief Shark Officer. Let me tell you about an amazing sponsor who helps make this show possible. I hope that you'll take a look at Drips, the founders of conversational texting, where they use conversational AI to help you reach customers where they're most responsive, and that's on their phones. And working with major brands like 3 Day Blinds, Liberty Mutual, Credit Repair, and Gainsco, Drips is leading the way for some of the biggest brands in the world to improve engagement rates and outcomes for their prospects and customers. And now back to the show. What is the ultimate marketing engine for your business, especially for small businesses with so much at stake? Ask yourself if the ultimate marketing engine is a successful customer. Developing successful customers and clients for life takes a blueprint and not just a transaction. Let the race begin, and now is the time to start your marketing engine. John Jantsch is a marketing consultant, speaker, creator of the Duct Tape Marketing System and Duct Tape Marketing Consulting Network, and best-selling author. His newest book is The Ultimate Marketing Engine, 5 Steps to Ridiculously Consistent Growth. And on this episode, we'll discuss serving small businesses with practical advice, fixing the car with duct tape, and how that turned into a best-selling book, business, and marketing framework, surviving 4 teenage daughters, avoiding self-important consulting speak, customer success, strategies before tactics, members only in jean jackets, car engines and marketing engines, arrowhead versus mile high, nurse sharks and tigers, and a lot more. So let's tune into a duct tape marketer with a shark whose preferred engine is always on a boat on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. John, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. I've listened to your show many times and read some of your work, but for those that haven't had the pleasure of getting to know you, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your career to date.
Oh, you bet. Well, I'll go all the way back to the beginning. I started my own marketing consulting firm a little over 30 years ago now. And like a lot of people, I had no plan. I could hustle work. I knew that. And so I took big clients, little clients, big projects, little projects. And at some point, I got a couple small businesses as clients, kind of wanted me to be like their outsourced, marketing CMO or something. And I loved working with them, but they were really hard to work with. They had the same challenges, never the same budgets or even attention spans. So one day I just said, look, if I'm going to work with small business owners, I'm going to have to walk in and say, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the results we hope we get. And by the way, here's what it costs. And that that was an innovation. That was a welcome innovation for a lot of small businesses because it solved their greatest frustration, which is, I think, still probably the greatest frustration for small businesses today. It's hard for them to buy marketing services. Everybody's selling a piece of the puzzle. There are way more pieces of the puzzle now than there were 10 years ago. So I went down that path. I kind of productized marketing. That's why I came up with a name. Duct Tape Marketing was, I felt like I needed a more product kind of name. That really resonated with small business owners, that metaphor. And so I essentially co-opted and made it the name of my business, the name of my first book, the name of my podcast. And now it's also the name of our network of independent marketing consultants around the world that installed the Duct Tape Marketing System.
Was there anything about duct tape? Like, were you fixing something at the time? It's like one of those things where you bump your head and you have an epiphany.
Well, I tell this story, and you know how stories are. They you tell them long enough, they sort of become myth or legend, or I'm not sure which is really true. But I do tell this story often that I have 4 daughters, and they were actually all teenagers at one stage. And my wife and I went out. I think it was like the first time we went out of town where we said, "Look, we're going to have somebody come look in on you, but we're not going to have a babysitter there the whole time." Well, you know where this is headed. And it turned into a party of about 200 people. And one of the people decided to take our vehicle out, and there was some construction being done in the neighborhood. And you know how they put a porta potty, in the yard a lot of times. And so they thought it'd be funny to knock it over with the car. Well, it knocked a little piece of the plastic molding bumper, off. And so after, all the dust settles, my kids think, well, we got to fix the car. And so they got a roll of duct tape and fashioned this little piece of plastic back on there, in a way that you really couldn't see it. They probably would have gotten away with it, except they left the roll of duct tape on the hood of the car. And so when we drove up, we were like, that's weird. you know and so then we separated them, broke them down individually, but at any rate we got that was about when I was looking for this name, and there is some sort of connection to a 16-year-old knowing that duct tape fixes everything to it being a good metaphor.
Well, congratulations on surviving 4 teenage daughters, because I bet you didn't have a lot of sleep during those years. So, well, before we dive into your new book, one of the things I've always really appreciated about you, having listened to your show a lot and read some of your books, just as you have, I work with large brands and small brands as well. And one of the traps that I find often that a lot of marketers fall into, and I do my best to guard myself against this as well, is a lot of the talk in marketing sounds like people are trying to aspire that they all worked at some massive Fortune 100 company and they invented the marketing themselves, and they are all McKinsey or Deloitte or Price Waterhouse consultants that have just it's that consulting speak. And to your credit, I've not ever really heard that from you. It's part of your Midwestern roots as well, but I do as much as I can to not sound like a consulting expert, although I enjoy being paid like one on occasion. But I think for a lot of people, they don't realize that we've made mistakes, and that's where we've learned. But how do you go about staying grounded as a marketer and also helping those businesses, especially the small ones, that don't want to be talked down to from up high, because the problems they have are just as complex, if not more, with a lot more limited budget and more at stake?
Yeah, I think it probably starts with, this is who I wanted to work with. And at the time, there was really nobody trying to serve them. I mean, we didn't really have the internet even, so it made it much harder to even act like you were trying to serve that market. So I think that's probably part of it. I wanted to serve that market. I think the other aspect is, and this is why duct tape was such a perfect metaphor for me, is that I just enjoy taking stuff that maybe seems complex and making it very simple and practical. And in fact, I have no use for, say, some new platform that comes along unless I can figure out how it's going to help me serve my existing customers better today. And I think that kind of staying rooted in that point of view, that marketing is a system, it starts with strategy before tactics. And all we're doing is now figuring out, how we can use these tools to make a better, customer or buyer journey. You really don't have to get too complicated with that. Everything that I wrote about in duct tape marketing certainly appeals to the smallest of small businesses. It all 100% applies to a marketing department at a Fortune, 100 company. And I've had many of them tell me that, but it's this language of, how can I just remember, for example, when Twitter first came out. So this is around 2006, 2007. A lot of small business owners are saying, "Oh, that's just stupid. I'm never going to get out of that," because all they saw was what other people were doing, or they'd go there for a while and look at all the river of stuff flowing by and go, why? And so my goal really was to show them how there could actually be a practical way to use this to serve your existing customers. And that's the only if you can't figure that out, then move on. So I've never really gotten, I love the new stuff, but I never really get caught up in the new stuff. And I think that's probably a way to stay pretty grounded.
Amen. And you use the magic word for me, at least, is service. So let's dive in then to the new book, The Ultimate Marketing Engine, 5 Steps to Ridiculously Consistent Growth. Great book again, by the way.
Thank you.
You've written several, but you cover it early on, but describe what to you is the successful marketing engine.
Yeah. So the ultimate marketing engine, I do put it in one statement, is a successful customer, because that's right in maybe page 2 or page 1, because I think a lot of times the authors spend first 6 chapters kind of getting around to the idea. And I wanted to say, here is what I mean by the ultimate marketing engine. Now I spend the rest of the book saying, what is a successful customer? How do you make a customer successful? Oh, by the way, you can't make every customer successful. And so, that's really what the 5 stages or the 5 steps are really all about, is we've got to figure out, and I probably would suggest that the biggest innovation in this book is something I call the customer success track. It's actually an intentional way of mapping how you make a customer successful, and probably exploring the fact that it may not actually involve things that you sell or services that you deliver today, but it's a point of view that says, hey, here's where my customers or clients are today. Here's where they want to go. How can we be the catalyst to take them where they want to go? And that, to me, that's how you create customers for life. That's how you scale your business with somebody that you're delivering value to, rather than going out and finding somebody else. So really, once we get through the customer success track, I spend the rest of the book on, okay, now let's make that the mission of our business. How do we build our marketing around that?
Yeah, it's the first sentence of the third paragraph. So God bless you for doing this early and not making us wait till chapter 7 to unpack it. But
I had in my second book, I had a wonderful editor named David Moldauer, and he's still out there. And I just remember he would read some of my stuff and go, "You're doing an awful lot of throat clearing here."
Yeah.
And I've always remembered that. It's like, get to the point.
Exactly. Well, chapter 5, unpack, if you will, what the customer as a member mindset is, please.
Yeah. So that's really how I'm trying to really position this idea of the customer success track, is that, what if, and it really came a lot from me. I had a real challenge writing this book, because I signed the contract March 15th, 2020. So it's like, if you kind of think for about 2 seconds about what everybody was doing right then. And I thought, holy crud, nobody wants to read how to market in a time of COVID. And I certainly don't want to write that book. But what I did see, what it did inform this book, is what I saw happening with a lot of my customers. I had, there were some of my customers were just in a tough industry that was, just impacted, very negatively. But I also saw a number of my customers not only survive but thrive during this period, and the commonality was that they all had really had in their DNA that they were meaningful in the lives of their customers. I mean, their customers wanted them to be around to survive. I mean, they went out of their way to say, "What can we do?" And I think that's always been true. That the businesses that really, particularly in tough times, but the businesses that really thrive are ones that are meaningful in some way in the lives of their customers. And so, that really became kind of the focus of this book, is, how could you actually, that sounds nice. I mean, how many companies talk about being customer centric, out there? I mean, it sounds really nice. So I really kind of spent the bulk of my time in this book saying, okay, the thread is, how can we be more meaningful in the lives of our customers? And it's not just a matter of a better experience. I mean, it really is more a matter of, instead of just focusing on transactions, could we focus on what's the ultimate transformation that our customers want, and can we be the catalyst for that? So I use the member term, even though it's a little confusing, because people start thinking about membership programs and Costco and things like that,
subscriptions,
and subscriptions. Yeah. And I don't mean, those are great business models, but what I mean is really more of a point of view that, what if you thought about a customer joining your organization, as opposed to, being a customer. And that's where I really came up with the member term, because I think it actually does imply, a much deeper or different kind of relationship. And so this customer success track that I've talked about is really the way that I then have tried to make this practical, because it does have to be something that you create a blueprint for, or a roadmap for, so that it's not just, hey, we're going to fix today's problem. It's, yeah, we're going to fix today's problem, the reason you came to us, but here's where we're going. And I think that what I found is that could be the mission. That could end up being an actual mission for a business, taking our customers from where they are today to where they want to go. I can wrap my head around that. I can hire for that. I certainly can build my whole internal roadmap for what I want to offer, based on that. I can train for that. I can delegate, for that once I build that customer success track. So, what started as a nice way to demonstrate how marketing could be done really turned into, I think, what could be the ultimate marketing, or not just marketing, the ultimate strategy for any business out there. Because in the book, I do thoroughly map out, and then there's a companion resource site that gives you all of the tools that I use. If you buy this book, if nothing else, you're going to get the roadmap for how to do marketing in your business. But my real goal in bringing this idea to the world is that I think every business could build this for their customers. And that, if I'm truly successful with this book, I will start hearing from companies that are doing that for their customers, regardless of what they're in, what business they're in, or nothing to do with their marketing necessarily, but that becomes their product and service roadmap.
Well, one of the things I also really appreciated about how you viewed mindset was also addressed in a small chapter inside that same one about hiring,
Yeah.
or same paragraph. And I'm going to quote, it said that the notion of hiring for fit is a stated goal of many organizations, but fit is a pretty broad term. Attracting talent based on shared mission and culture is another often stated goal. But again, if the mission is contrived and the culture undefined, these attributes won't serve. Love that comment on so many levels, because everybody's having a challenge to
Yeah.
fix culture. Everybody's having a challenge to hire good talent. Getting those two things to even merge together is going to be a challenge to kingdom come. So
Yeah.
getting that broader adoption of the mindset was fantastic.
Well, and I think one of the challenges a lot of people face is they're told you have to have mission and values and vision, and so it becomes this academic exercise, but you don't create those things. They are. You can reinforce them, but for especially for small businesses, quite often they are really a reflection of who the owner is being, and you can't make those up and put them on a plaque. And so that's why I think that we've got to come up with this idea of a mission that is so simple that everyone can understand it and everyone can bring themselves to it, as opposed to us telling, here's the values that you have.
Yeah, got to be able to recite it, remember it, not have it written by some third party.
Yeah.
So another very trendy topic for marketers is talking about problem solving. And you talk a lot about this in the problem solving matrix. Elaborate, if you will, on how you view that.
Well, here's I think I start that chapter. I hope I start that chapter with this statement, because I say it all the time, that no one wants what we sell. They want their problem solved. And our job as marketers is to help them understand we get you. I mean, because a lot of times people just know the symptoms. They don't really know what their problem is. I mean, quite frankly, almost every business that hires me, well, I sell marketing strategy. No one wakes up and says, I'm going to go get some marketing strategy today. But they do wake up and say, how come I can't charge what I'm worth? Or how come I look just like my competitors and can't differentiate? Well, those are strategy problems. But if I can address the problems that they're feeling, why you can't charge enough, why you can't differentiate your business, then they're going to say, you get me. You do understand the challenge I'm having. And oh, by the way, it's a strategy problem. Let's connect those things. And that's really what I'm getting at that in that whole chapter, really, is that, we have to meet customers where they are, particularly early on in the journey. We often want to run ads and say, buy from us. And we're not addressing the problem. We're not helping them understand the problem. We're not guiding them to, what's next after we fix that problem. And so, by focusing on, and some people feel like, oh, that's so negative, but that's really what people want first. Doesn't mean you can't come with rainbows and unicorns, right after that. But they have to know that you get them. And the fact that, if I go to your website and all it says is what you do, I may not actually have connected what you do with solving my problem. But if I go there and you say, I get an example I love to cite all the time is a tree service. I think it may be in the book too. Isn't that terrible? I've written too many books, Kenneth. But and it's that most people believe that tree service, if they've got chainsaws and trucks, can cut down trees. But what they don't believe is you'll show up on time when you say you will to do the work, or to quote them, that you'll clean up the job site. And so, the tree service that does that, that's the problem that they're actually solving for somebody, not, cutting down the tree. Now, we all know that there are a lot of companies that won't cut the tree down well and, do a terrible job, but that's the assumption. So if all I'm saying is we cut down trees beautifully, that's like, well, yeah, okay, next, what's, can I get a cheaper price out of you? But if that company is saying, we'll show up exactly when we say we will, in fact, we'll give you an on-time guarantee that gives you $100 off if we're late, 15 minutes late. I mean, that company now is immediately differentiated themselves from everybody else. And they've addressed the problem that most homeowners have. I mean, who wants to wait around for the tree service for 4 hours? So that's really what I'm getting at in that, is that we have to base our entire business around that. And I'll tell you, a lot of people say, well, I don't know what the problem I solve is, but I give you some great tools in this. The first one is just, why don't you ask your customers? Because they know. The beauty is, you don't even have to ask them. If you're one of those businesses that is increasingly reviewed in places like Google, they are telling you. Because we turn to Google and leave a 5-star review because somebody did something we didn't expect. We're not getting that from the companies that we've purchased from before, and that's why we're so thrilled to leave a review. And we will talk about, in our own language, in our own words, exactly the problems that you're solving for us.
Later on, you talk about attracting ideal customers as well as scaling with those.
Yeah.
You made a great point about how referrals are happy accidents resulting from having done good work.
Yeah.
So how do we go about scaling that ecosystem, if you will, in our relationships with our customers?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do with this idea of ideal customers, I actually come out and say that you should narrow your focus to the top 20% of your existing clientele, which freaks a lot of people out, of course. But those are the people that are probably your most profitable. And it's not necessarily your biggest customers. Sometimes those aren't the most profitable, but the most profitable types of customers who already refer business to you. Those two characteristics, what I have found is that they had the right problem. They were the right fit. They had the right values and beliefs that were matched with you, and they had a great experience. That's why they're referring you. So if we can understand who they are and go to work on really building our entire business around not only attracting more of them, that's a nice thing, but could we start discovering what else we could do for them? I often tell people that one of the other ways to start thinking about your best clients, who do you deliver, or who could you deliver the most value to the fastest? That combination, I have found, that group of people, obviously they got value, they got it immediately. They're going to be raving fans, and they probably would say, what else can you do for me? And I think building our business, by doing 10 times more business with that best customer, or 100 times more business with that best customer, is such a more effective way to build momentum and scale in a business than it is to go out there and get somebody else to trust that you can provide a solution for them.
So you're a Midwestern guy, and you probably haven't come across as many as I have as a diver, but I ask this of everybody that comes on a shark's perspective. What is your favorite kind of shark, and why? Do you have a favorite shark story?
I have done some scuba, or not scuba, but snorkeling with some sharks. And so the only ones I really have any familiar with are some of the tamest sharks out there that will come up and bump into you and not really care. And I think they were called nurse sharks.
Nurse sharks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
So that's all I could say. Although I will say that one time we were kayaking in Mexico, in Baja, and those little tiger sharks, those little tiny guys that would come right up to the shore and grab fish and stuff, were kind of fun too.
Yeah, I'll be swimming with tiger sharks on Tuesday, as a matter of fact. So John, it's a special time in the show where we get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
Probably not, but I'm guessing you're going to ask anyway.
Good man. All right, number 1. Duct tape or Gorilla Tape? And we're only talking tape, not the duct tape marketing. We're just talking tape.
Oh, I'm surprised you asked that, Kenneth.
I know it was a little bit of a softball, but I had to throw it in there.
I do like Gorilla Glue, though. I do like
Gorilla Glue. Good save. All right. We've been talking a little bit about members.
Yeah.
So, favorite jackets of all time: denim jacket or a members only jacket?
I don't, for whatever reason, I never rocked the jean jacket, but I still to today have a members only jacket. And as you might imagine, I've actually been using it in presentations.
Oh yeah. I saw it. Yeah.
Around this book. Yeah.
I saw your presentation in Cleveland. That's why I asked that one. All right. Number 3, we've been talking a lot about engines. Your books have been a lot about engines.
Yeah.
But let's talk about car engines for a twist. Would you rather have an all-electric Ford F-150 Lightning or an F-150 hybrid, gas and electric?
I have, for what it's worth, given Ford $100 to reserve a Lightning when it comes out. So
Good.
there's
Good
the
for
answer
you.
to that. Although I do have to tell you that my dad, don't ask me why, years ago, this is in the 60s, now probably 70s. I wasn't driving yet. The mid 70s had a Bonneville that had a 455 cubic engine, and that thing was slow as all get out to 60, but then it would go about 150.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, it seems always hard to ask that kind of question. I started to use a Tesla or a V8 Corvette, something like that, and it just didn't seem fair. All right. You're from Kansas City, but live in Colorado now.
Yeah.
Let's say that the Chiefs are playing the Broncos. Would you rather watch that game at Kansas City's Arrowhead Stadium or at Denver's Mile High Stadium?
I think I'd rather watch it in Kansas City just because obviously you're home fans for sure. But I will make sort of a soapbox speech here. Those people that move to another city and then adopt that fan, rather than staying with their childhood teams, I lose all respect for. So, at any rate, Kansas City Royals, Kansas City Chiefs forever.
All right. And number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Ah, biscuits. Gosh darn it. The
But you're
cornbread
from
with
corn
enough,
country.
but cornbread with enough butter on it's tough one. Throw some jalapenos in there, but I make a killer mushroom gravy, so I'm going with biscuits and gravy.
Good man. All right. Well, John, where do people find out more about you, the Duct Tape marketing system, the podcast, the book, and more?
You bet. So I have a special site just for the book. If they want to check out more on the book, theultimatemarketingengine.com. So just like the title, themarketingengine.com, ultimatemarketingengine.com. And then if you just want to check out what I've been doing the last few decades, it is ducttapemarketing.com. So that's DUCTTAPE marketing.com.
Awesome. John, thank you so much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun, Ken.
So there was my conversation with John Jantsch, a marketing consultant, speaker, creator of the Duct Tape Marketing System and Duct Tape Marketing Consulting Network, and best-selling author. His newest book is The Ultimate Marketing Engine, 5 Steps to Ridiculously Consistent Growth. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from our conversation with him. First, let's talk about rhetoric. Lots of air quote thought leadership out there from a lot of people who talk in what I call consulting speak. They recite a lot of best practices from a lot of the folks with lots of followers whose claim to fix everything is just to listen to their eloquent marketing advice. Or they worked at Google or Apple for 5 minutes and a team of hundreds of others, or at some big consulting firm. All smart people, I'm sure, but a lot of it's BS and doesn't serve a lot of the small to medium-sized businesses with people who don't have a ton of money to recover from bad advice taken. It's up to us to communicate more practically with not what is just popular or groupthink, but what will fundamentally deliver results for that business's customers. That shouldn't include all the junk science from funnel advice or top 10 Instagram hacks or what sounds good when only spoken by an air quote thought leader. So do your best to communicate real practices rather than just air quote best practices with practical advice and sage strategies and fundamentals. Try listening more instead of just expecting everyone to listen to you up on high. It's got to truly serve their customer. Second, love the intro in the book where he says that the ultimate marketing engine is a successful customer. And so what is a successful customer? Well, for each of us, that's somewhat different. Depending on the type of business we're in, would recommend the read of the book, though, to help you continue to figure out what that means for you. Third, can you look at your customers as members? I like that part of John's customer success track and how we make this more practical. The mission may just be to define that track and then to ask yourself for your customers, where are they now? Where do they want to go? And how do we help them get there? Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. I'm so thankful to everyone who listens. Thank you to my sponsor and the team at Drips. Please consider writing a review and letting me know your thoughts on the show. It's time to go out there and give some good advice. Not just the advice that sounds good, but the kind that will truly serve our customers. You'll get that practicality here. So please join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.